Hi everyone! At some point in your life, you will have to write or respond to a formal letter. A letter applying for a job, a letter of complaint, etc. But what's the difference between a letter and an email? They're similar in content and in form. An email is sent online, it's faster, but some people consider it to be less formal. Whereas a letter is sent by post and some people consider it more secure. Okay, so formal or informal? In B2 and C1 writing part 2, you might be asked to write a letter or an email to a friend or a peer, to a school college principal or a magazine editor. In C1, you may be asked to write to the director of a company. How do we know if the letter needs to be informal or formal? Well, it's informal if we're writing to a friend or a peer. And it's formal if we're writing to, for example, the editor of a newspaper or a magazine, a school principal, or the director of a company. Okay, let's look at register and functions. What's register about? According to Cambridge, these emails and letters must be consistently appropriate in tone in register. This means you must be polite and use formal expressions from the beginning of the letter to the end. Do not use contractions, colloquial expressions, or phrasal verbs or idioms. Now, let's look at the functions. Depending on the task, we will have to respond to an email, letter, or write an email or letter. The reasons for writing can be, for example, to apply for a job, to make a complaint, to make suggestions, to request or give information. Okay. Now, let's look at each part of the letter and the useful expressions for each part. Okay. The opening. If we know who we're writing to, we should say, Dear Mr. Suarez. Or if you're writing to me, Dear Miss Cervantes. If you don't know the person you are writing to, you can write Dear Sir, Madam, or Dear Editor, or Dear Manager. Okay. Then we should write why we're writing. Okay, here are some useful expressions that you can use to introduce the reason for writing. You will find these useful expressions in a Word document, okay, next to the link to the video. Okay, so don't worry if you don't get them now. You can look at the Word document, okay? Then we should write our paragraphs. Clear paragraphing. The number of paragraphs will depend on the number of content points in the task. Okay, remember, we should organise our paragraphs using formal Discourse markers such as first of all, firstly, on the one hand, on the other hand, in my opinion, in conclusion, in summary. Okay. Then how do we end the letter? We should conclude expressing what we expect as a result of our letter and end your letter with one of these useful expressions. For example, if I'm applying for a job, we could end the letter saying, I look forward to receiving your reply. And remember, we write yours sincerely if you know the person you're writing to, yours faithfully if you don't know the person you're writing to, and please don't forget to write your name. Okay? Yours sincerely, Caroline Cervantes. Okay, now let's look at the structure. Okay, let's look and revise what we need to do when writing a formal letter or email. Remember, opening. If you don't know who you're writing to, if you do know who you're writing to, Dear Mr. Suarez. If you don't know the person you're writing to, Dear Sir, Madam, or Dear Editor. Okay, then we use an introduction paragraph saying why we're writing. Then we organise our writing into clear paragraphs depending on the content points in the task. Remember to use discourse markers to organise the paragraphs. Then we should end our letter with an expression to say what we expect as a result of our letter, and end your letter as follows. Yours sincerely if you know the person you're writing to, or yours faithfully if you don't know the person you're writing to. Okay, now let's have a look at some sample tasks. Okay, first of all, we'll look at B2. Remember, it's very important when doing a writing to plan what we're going to write. So let's look at this B2 exam task. Okay, it's an advertisement in a local English language newspaper, and it's for to enter a travel competition. Okay, we have to write to Mrs. Hopkins telling her why you would like to go on the trip, what skills you have which would be useful on the trip, what previous experience you have of traveling. Okay, so when planning, we need to ask the following questions. Number 1, who are we writing to? Why are we writing? What topic points do we need to include? How many paragraphs? How do we begin the letter? What useful expressions can we use? How do we end the letter? Okay, so all of this must be in your plan. Let's look at C1. Okay, this is a task which says that a company would like to offer work experience to students from a college. Okay, you need to write a letter for publication in the student newspaper. So, who are we writing to? To students. Why are we writing? To offer work experience placements. Okay, what topic points do we need to include? Your letter should explain what your company does, what kind of work experience placements are available, and how students would benefit from the experience. Okay, all of this, how many paragraphs do we need to write? How should we begin our letter? Any useful expressions for beginning? Any useful expressions for ending the letter? Okay, all of this should be included in your plan. Okay, guys, well, that's it for now. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow in class, and we will plan and write our formal email and letters. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.